Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Oh My Korean Goodness podcast. I'm your host Hamza Islam. This week's episode is featuring Khushbu Kotak, who is the founder of Salama Minds, which is an organization that aims to dismantle mental health by providing therapy sessions between the ages of 11 to 22 years old. As you could probably tell, Khushbu is involved in mental health activism, and while I've had mental health activists, I think this is the third time in a row, I've had at least one guest each month where we talk about mental health. Khushbu is trying to spread awareness, especially in communities where mental health is not talked about as much. And that's one of the things that makes mental health difficult is one, what are people really going through? And secondly, can people talk about it without the fear of being judged? And I really applaud the work that Khushbu is doing because it can be scary. So, Khushbu Kotak, welcome to the Oh My Korean podcast.
Um, I'm very thankful to be on this podcast. So thank you, Hamza. And yeah, welcome. And it's gonna be juicy. So stay and watch and hear.
Thank you so much for joining. And like seriously, I applaud you for everything that you do because I can't relate to you in the fact that I know you have Kenyan background, but my parents are from Bangladesh, and I think we can both there's something that we can relate to, which is sometimes in like different countries they don't like to talk about mental health because they're like, well, we understand that there are issues in the happening around our country, but mental health should not be one of them. And so it's really great to see people like you to be able to say, no, 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 no. This is something we do need to talk about. And sure, it might not solve everything, but it can start to solve something. Um, but before we talk about Salama Minds and everything that you've done with that organization, I want to focus on you for a bit because people sometimes tend to forget that even though you're involved in mental health activism, that doesn't mean that you kind of like that you're always happy or that like you run away from everything or like that you can't be upset, I guess, for lack of a better term. And so for you, I'd love to start by talking to you about how you would describe your relationship with mental health because like I said, it's not something where you like you've overcome all those challenges. Like you're still going through challenges even as we speak today.
So my journey with mental health has been bumpy and still continues to be bumpy. And I think what I don't understand is how we as humans have forgotten what it is to be human. And there's this psychologist, who's also a mental health advocate in Vancouver, Canada. And he's called Dr. Gabor Mate. And I really resonate to something that he says. And he says, as humans, we've forgotten what it is to be human through all this civilization. We have started acting like we're like perfect, and I think that is where the biggest challenge is. Coming back to my own problems with mental health, I went to therapy when I was 15, and somebody can ask, oh, what does a 15-year-old go through? So many things. I can be having a bad day and I just need somebody to talk to, and I feel like that's the whole essence of mental health. Um, it's the same as saying physical health, like you've got to be physical well, and similarly, you've got to be mentally well. That's how we as humans function. And when you're not mentally okay, or when you're not mentally feeling well, then you've got to do something about it. So now coming to my journey with mental health, as I said, I went to therapy when I was 15, and it's rocky. For some people, we experience it more than others. Um, One of my issues or symptoms would be I have a lot of childhood trauma. And so it started to seep into different parts of my life. And I needed to go and like seek to speak to someone. But in general, um, I think it's a bit of a tug of war. With just like with anything in life, there's always the good and the bad. And similarly with mental health, there's the good part of it where you have days where you're feeling great, and then you have days where you feel shitty. And that's just every single person goes through it. What I don't understand is why it's so stigmatized, because hello, like you're a human being. You can feel sad, you can have a bad day. And yeah, pretty much that's it. And that's actually how, like, what it inspired me to found Salama Minds was just my own personal experiences and my own personal journey in the community that I live in. I'm a fourth generation Kenyan. So all of my formative experiences have been from Kenya, in Kenya, but I'm of Indian descent, but I identify myself as Kenyan. Yes.
Yeah, I love firstly how you talked about we forget to be human because we care so much about being perfect. And I think that's what's holding us back is that we can't truly be ourselves because always have to become this weird version of ourselves that is really not us. And I applaud you for being able to talk a little bit about how you 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 had your own experiences of mental health and those times where you weren't 100%. I think that's really powerful to open up about, and that's what I always do with this podcast because it's not just who a person is, it's what a person is, and it's that they're a human being. But I want to talk about a little bit about your journey to therapy because like I said, when you're in different countries or different parts of the world, mental health is like one of the last things people want to talk about because they're like, oh, I don't know how it worked in Kenya, but in South Asia, if you say, oh, you have mental health issues, they think you're crazy. And so I want to be able to ask you or talk to you about how difficult it was to start that conversation. I start the fact that like, oh, I'm not 100% because especially in a community where people go, no, what are you talking about? It's like, no, this is a real issue and we need to talk more about it. But the fact is that in different parts of the world, people see it as like, no, we should not talk about this in the first place.
That is very correct, especially in the African and Asian communities. Mental health is very, very stigmatized. So I don't know if I should say that I'm surprised because I don't really think about it, but I remember I was sitting in the bathroom when I was 15 and I was sobbing. And at the time, I was at my mom's sister's house and I picked up my phone and I called my mom and I said, listen, I need to go to therapy. Otherwise, it's not looking too good for me. And immediately, my mom was so up for it and she said, okay, we'll go and you can have therapy. So it is so crazy to see how like people from the same community are on different extremes. So for example, my mother was very like up for it. She was like, cool, we're gonna do this for you if that's what's going to make you feel better. And then we have other people that will like call you crazy or call their kids crazy or tell them to go to church or go to the temple or go see a pastor or a priest. And it's very crazy because um in Salama Mines, basically we have minors and it's a legality to contact a guardian of the minor who wants therapy. And so my mom is part of like the minors, and so she will usually talk to the parents and say, hey, your child has reached out to our NGO and like we need you to sign so that they can go for therapy. And my mom was having a conversation with a dad, somebody's dad, and he comes from the Asian background. And he told my mom, who is going to marry my son if I send him to therapy? Because they're going to think he's crazy. And that just blew my mind because I just sat down to myself and I thought, does this father not have a bad day? Like when he goes to work, does he not experience stress? Does he know that stress can kill? Does he know that stress can like cause so many problems, like for his mental health? And that's the thing. That's the thing that I feel like people don't understand is something like stress that we keep talking about. We don't really understand how it can actually affect us. And people like when we start talking about mental health, people think about, oh, schizophrenia and PTSD. And yes, mental health has all of that, but it can also start from something known as stress, which is something we keep talking about. You don't have to be like terribly, like, you don't have to have agoraphobia, which is the fear of going out and like meeting people or something like that, if I'm not wrong, for you to be for you to have a mental health issue. Mental health is everywhere. You wake up some days and you're feeling groggy. It's because of the weather, seasonal depression. It's there, it's present every single moment of your life. There's a reason you react to things in a certain way as compared to a different way. And that's mental health. It's because you have these neural pathways in your brain that have come from somewhere that are making you behave or react to certain ways. And sometimes that could be a problem. It could be a problem in your relationships, in your friendships. So, giving myself as an example of the analogy I just gave, I have childhood trauma, and with that comes PTSD. I have a tendency of like flinching when people come too close to me because I feel like I'm going to be hit or something. And it starts from something very little, which can grow into something very big. And the ability to be self aware, I think, is key. The ability to say, oh, this is what I went through in my childhood, which is the reason as to why I might be reacting this way, is very key. And this whole stigma with mental health, it's about time we get over it. Because even the parents that stigmatize, or the people or the communities that stigmatize mental health, they are going through it themselves. They just don't know it, or they are too afraid to put a label or something like that. And I think it's time to change.
Yeah, one of the things you brought up that I thought was really, really interesting is that like mental health doesn't it's not regardless, or it can start anywhere, like even small, like you mentioned, like you look at the weather, it's groggy, seasonal depression, and it doesn't have to be anything. I guess like sometimes when we think of like person who has like mental health problems, we create like an image, but in reality, it can be anything. And I think that's what, I mean, no doubt, a lot of people tend to forget, and it's so weird that we don't put ourselves in other people's shoes and understand like what it is that they're really going through, or what it means, or what's the best way to put it? I guess yeah, what they're really going through, because we don't really know that deep inside. But
And what you said just made me think, like, when we come to physical well-being, people will stop themselves from eating a lot of fatty food because they know they might become obese, for example. And it's the same thing, it's the same mechanism with mental health. Like, it's there. Like, it's not something that needs, you don't need to feel judged, but I guess everybody's different. And that's why I have Salama Minds, to help spread clarity, bring more clarity into people's lives. Yeah.
yeah, actually, and that's what I want to transition to, because one of the things that every guest I've interviewed so far, the one trait they've had is that they have been able to go against the current and question or challenge what's been previously known. And what I mean by that in your case is that because people don't talk about it, it's easy to say, well, that's we should not do it. But here you are with this organization, you're saying, no, let's talk about this. Let's discuss this issue that's affecting so many people's lives, so many young people's lives. And the interesting thing about this organization is that even though people will be like, why are you starting this organization? No one really cares. You got a lot of support from social media saying, no, the fact that you're able to share your experiences of going to therapy, I want to be able to do this because I have things going on and I want to discuss this. And that it became not just one person doing it, but multiple people. But one of my favorite questions to ask is how life would be different. So if you didn't get the support you received on social media when you first talked about going to therapy and opening up, would you have still been able to do Salama Minds, or what would life look like different for you?
That's a very interesting question. First of all, I cannot not be a part of mental health advocacy. It's been in me, it's been a part of me, so I cannot not be a part of it. Um, how do I answer this question? Mental health has been a very big part of my journey, and I think it's supposed to be everybody's journey because it's you and your mind. And so, what would life be like? I can't imagine life being any type of way without mental health being a part of my journey. And I'm very, very thankful to like all the people who supported Salama Minds because I think especially people in our generation, the more that people are coming out to talk about their experiences and their problems and all the good things and bad things that they're going through in life, the more of us like it's stirring a lot. It's like a revolution. And I just want to say that I thank God because I believe in God that I'm able to do this because it takes a lot to come out here and say, listen, I started going to therapy at 15. Because there's a lot of people out here who have a completely different mindset and will judge you up, down, left, right, and center. So I'm just very thankful that when I posted the video introducing Salama Minds, 10,000 people watched it on Instagram. And I don't know. I'm just thankful, you know? And it's a big thing when you're coming from an African country trying to revolutionize the world or the country that is or the place that is so stringent on change. So it's a big, I'm not going to say it's a burden because I absolutely love this. This is what I'm passionate about. This is my dream. My dream is to, I'm a people's person. Humanity, I'm here for humanity. And I know people will be thinking, what is this girl saying? But it's true. Like, I'm a people's person. And I just want to bring love and light and good energy into people's lives. And if Salama Minds is one way I can do it, why not?
I can't imagine because you were talking, it was so interesting where you were like, I don't see myself doing anything else. And it's like, I respect the fact that you don't let anything stop you because, why have a plan B? You want to do this because this is you, this is what you want to do, this is what you feel like is going to help the world. And it's weird because sometimes people will say, no, what you're doing is a waste of time. You should do something that's safe, whatever safe means. But at the end of the day, this is what, like, whatever journey you take, even if you take the safe route, you're going to have obstacles in your way. You're going to have moments where things are not going to go your way. So it's just a matter of, finding your passion and then finding out how to make the world a better place. And if people say whatever, what can you do, right?
Somebody very dear to my heart that I love the most told me, or when I first met them, I was a very, as you say, like I was in my bubble, in my box, playing it safe. And they asked me, what if you die tomorrow? You haven't even lived life. It's about time you start living life. And yesterday, when I was at work, I had a conversation with the security guard on duty, and she's 46, and she said she has never been on a plane because she's so afraid of planes. Can you believe living 46 years of your life and you have not seen different parts of the world? That blew my mind. And I just sat and I told her what the person that I really care about told me. Life is for living, because if you die tomorrow, you'd have played it safe and you'd sit and question yourself as to why you've not gone to explore. And for me, there's nothing safe. I'm always having arguments with my parents about different things, and they look at me and they're like, you're crazy, this is not how the world works. And I'm like, the world doesn't have to work as it's working. This is my world, I'm in it, I'm gonna run it, because we're all on this journey, this weird life, the weird journey called life. And in a sense, we're very controlled because You grow up, you have to go to school. After you go to school, you go to university. You go to university, you have to get a job. You have to get a job, you get married. You get married, you get kids. It's this constant cycle. And in as much as your life is controlled by external factors, you also have to learn how to live life by your means, in your means, how you want it to. So don't play it safe. I don't play it safe. I get into many arguments, especially with my parents, about the decisions that I'm taking. But what's life without that?
That's an
What
interesting
life,
point.
what life living in your bubble, being controlled? I'm not saying go be all outrageous, but if you want to do something and if you truly deeply love something and it's burning you up on the inside, go and do it. The world is at your disposal.
Now, one of the things that and obviously my audience may not know who you are, but I will say when I first met you, and you've talked a little bit about this, about your mental health journey, is that you want people to open up and let them truly be themselves. And that is never an easy thing because there's always this concern of, oh, what if I say this, I'm going to be judged. If I open up about this issue, people are going to think I'm weird or whatever. But you're someone that wants to be able to say, just be you. I will not judge you. My organization wants to let you just tell us a bit about who you are and how you're feeling. And you're providing that for so many people, or so many young people, rather, excuse me. But who was that person to you? Who was that person that when you needed to open up, they let you be able to welcome you with open arms?
I'm gonna say my parents. Um, the fact that my mom immediately like said, "Cool, I'll take you for therapy," that was, in retrospect, that's a very big thing. And my dad as well. My dad never used to live with us because he used to be traveling. And I think he was also he's my gentle giant. Like, my father will accept anything and everything I say, and he'll advise me. And I think it would be very nice for people to know how Salama Minds started, actually. So, over the years when I was growing up, my dad is very open-minded. So we used to have discussions about, oh, Khushbu, you should open a library, just do social work. It's going to be purposeful in your life. And now we used to sit for hours on the weekends and just talk about the different things that I could do. And I was like, Dad, no. The day I get that idea, I promise you, I will do it. And it took years and years and years. And I used to just sit and think, what is it there that's out for me? What is it there that I love? What am I so passionate about? And one fine day, I was just sitting and I was like, shit, maybe we can have an NGO that pays for youth therapy. Because who else is doing that? Nobody else is doing that. And it's not even about who else is doing it, but it's just, I think, or at the time, and I still have this perception that just posting on Instagram would not be enough. It would not drive the impact that I want it to have. And so I want it to go big, and not just for going big, not for the purpose of going big, but to just really, really help and really, really revolution. Yeah, that is something about me. There's words I cannot say, but yes, revolutionize. Ooh, that's the
Rev-
Kenyan in me. That's the Kenyan in me. What can I say? Anyways, yeah. And that's how Salama Mind was founded. Just one day, something came into my head, and I said, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to pay for youth therapy, and we're going to build awareness, spread awareness. Yep. So I would say whoever welcomed me with open arms were my parents, definitely. And also my friends. I have a very, very great support system around me.
yeah, okay. And first of all, I relate to you. There are certain words I can't pronounce either, but I think the word you're thinking of is revolutionary. I think that's what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Um, no,
Revolutionary. Yeah. I said it.
I want to now let's talk about Salama Minds because the interesting thing is that you are paying for therapy sessions, and it's not just people themselves, but like you're chipping in and being able to say like, look, I know that this is like difficult for you, but let me take care of you. Where have you been able to get that money from? Because and maybe in the United States or especially in the United States, you have to pay to get therapy, but then for you, you're going, let us do the work for you. Where have you been able to get that? How have you been able to support Salama Minds and also support those people?
Okay, so I think I'd like to begin with um our mission. Our mission is to provide affordable and accessible therapy to those between the ages of 11 and 22. And the most important thing is no matter what their socioeconomic background is. So, however much money you have, however little money you have, it doesn't matter. We're still gonna pay for your therapy. How we've been able to get that help is through sponsorships. We put up a fundraiser some time ago. We email lots and lots of people. We can email like 100 different people in a span of 10 days. And it's just talking to people, getting to know people, going for events, pitching in what Salama Minds is. And I can't lie, it has been a very difficult journey, especially when it comes to sponsorships. People are not really willing to fund, but we've gotten by. We've really gotten by. And right now, the goal is to build or to have sustainable sponsors that would give at least a specific amount or however much they want, because the therapy that our clients receive, so the therapist or the psychologist and the psychiatrist, we had a conversation with them and they reduced their rates. So they give Salama Minds a lower rate as compared to they would give like a normal client. And I think that's also been a very, very big thing because we don't have to pay as much as a regular client would have to pay. But yeah, we've just been like emailing a bunch of different people, such as banks, um, organizations, and yeah, that's how we try our luck.
I love the passion that you have for this organization because, and it kind of goes back to when I asked you about what would life be if you get involved. And it's like you have this thing and you're willing to do everything possible to make sure that you're not only doing this for yourself and your organization, but you're able to help so many people because of how sometimes expensive therapy can be in different countries. And not only that, but just being able to go, like, let me take care of it. Like, let this be, let, let not, see, I can't say anything. Don't let,
You're
don't let it
good.
be a, don't let it be a burden on you. We'll take care of it. That's what I'm trying to say. And I love the fact that this is the type of thing you want to do with your organization. And
And it's more, we're doing it for the mission because we want to walk the talk. And what I mean by that is we want to really erase and eradicate the stigma. And we have seen people that come from wealthy families and they're stinking rich, but their parents don't believe in therapy. So they don't go for therapy, even though they have the money. And that's the main aim of the organization is no matter what your socioeconomic background is, our aim is to erase the stigma with mental health. So we will take care of you. And I think that brings a very, very important thing, and that is in Kenya and in Africa and in Asia, there's a lot of stigma when it comes to mental health. And it's so crazy because the mindset of like the communities are set on stone. And it's so crazy because, and I don't mean to offend anyone when I say this, but how is it that we believe in God, something that we cannot see, but when somebody is saying, "Hey, like I can't breathe, I'm having a panic attack," you can see it, but people ignore that fact. But they're the same people that we are the same people because I'm a part of that community that believe in God, in something that we cannot see per se. But when it comes to mental health and your child is coming to tell you, I'm feeling very stressed, or I don't know, there's something wrong with me that I can't really put a finger on. I have all these symptoms. I can't breathe. I can barely sleep. And people in our communities are so, they turn a blind eye to it, or they say, yeah, go to church, go see the pastor. What could you possibly like be going through? And that also comes with generational stuff, because if you go to see, our parents and their parents' generation did not really have all the stress, the competition that we currently have right now. And each generation comes with their set of problems, issues, difficulties, challenges. And for our generation, we have all these Eurocentric beauty standards that we need to succumb to, that we feel the need to be a certain way. And if we're not looking a certain way, or if we're not talking a certain way, then we feel like we don't belong. And so that's really what I'm trying to get the world, and especially these communities that are so stringent, to change, especially in Africa, that hey, open up your mind. It's time to change. And yeah, because
Yeah, that's
God says, help yourself and I'll help you. So yeah.
That's it's interesting you talk about generation because it like you said, like every generation came with like had something that they had to go through. And it's very I think that's something people don't really recognize. So when they go, "Oh, we went through a much worse time than you." That may be true, but there are things that our generation may be going through that you probably don't. And then there are going to be things that the next generation is going to go through that we probably didn't. So I think it's really important to like note that in the future, and you brought this up importantly, is that like let people open up their minds because whatever they're going through for a reason. And I want to kind of tie that into what I want to talk about now because, obviously you and your family are from different generations, but you talked about how your parents have been really helpful to you. They were the first people to really open up and let you be yourself. And your mom is the chief operations officer for your organization. You're the chief executive officer. What has the relationship been like? I mean, obviously you have the parental side of things, but now as business partners, what has that been like? Has it been more of a rocky relationship or more something like it's still like you still have like that not father, that daughter mother relationship?
I need to breathe before I answer this question. And just like in any relationship, there's always gonna be a tug of war. And I just wanna highlight the fact that Salama Minds would not be where it is if it wasn't also for my mother's roles, because she takes care of integral parts of the organization, such as funding, which is something very big, such as talking to different parents when their kids ask for therapy from our organization. And so without her, I think we'd be falling, because her role is irreplaceable. The trust, you see, if you get other people, and we do have a team that we also trust, but when it comes to mm, your family, or in this case my mom, I don't need to like have to trust her or anything. It's already built. We already have systems built in place that make us work together well. And when we establish and keep re-establishing those systems on some, mom, these are your duties, this is what you need to do. And because I'm the CEO, I tell myself what to do. So I know what I'm supposed to be doing. When we run things that way, everything works out. But then again, in every relationship, there's always going to be the good and the bad. But it's safe to say my mom and I work as a team. Um, and we work efficiently and best when we don't like meander into each other's jobs. So I have what I need to do, and she has what she needs to do. She keeps giving me updates, I'll give her updates, and it just works perfectly that way. So
Yeah,
it's bumpy, but it has its good. And without my mom, nobody can replace her, the role that she has in Salama Minds. And I've really seen her passion grow for it as well. My mom
yeah,
can 4 in the morning and she'll be like, we need to help this kid. Like, we really need to. Like, wake up and do what you need to do, and we really need to get this done. And yeah, so I've really seen my mother grow her passion and her love and her joy, and she puts in her all, and it's really nice to see that.
yeah. I was just laughing because I love the fact that it's like it can be a rocky relationship because you guys are trying to help the business grow, but then also at the same time there is this relationship like I could not have done this without my mom and um yeah, and I think that that goes for every organization or everything that you do. It's that you're gonna have your highs and you're gonna have your lows, but ultimately none of this could happen if it wasn't for that close circle. So I love that. And now I want to talk about the future, firstly on the organization and then on yourself. But for Salama Minds, you know what you're doing is really good because you want to destigmatize mental health and let people just open up. And something that you want to do in the future is make this go international because it's not just in Kenya but ultimately around the world. Do you look for a specific like a category? Are there specific countries you look towards, hoping that it? Or are you looking for different countries in particular, or do you hope that it just reaches every country? Which what's the vision like?
The vision is big. First, I want it to be all around Africa. It needs to be all around Africa because Africa itself, all the countries, there's a lot of stigma for like regarding mental health. That's a big problem. It's one of the biggest problem after corruption, I'd say. Like, yeah, like how are you telling your child just go to church and you'll feel better? So the vision is Africa first, and then the rest of the world can follow.
Yeah, I think that's a that's a very interesting way of putting it. No, because I, I do think that, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, is that it doesn't matter how much money you have, how many resources you have, how powerful I guess you are, is that everyone can benefit from being able to talk to someone and just let everything out because there are moments where we will have our tough days. So it's like, okay, who can we talk to that will help us get at least like a friend of some sort to just be like, this is how I'm feeling.
I think for me, when it comes to mental health, I think everybody needs to go to therapy. I feel like the label itself is what like causes discomfort in people. Oh, therapy. It means you have a big problem. But I think every single individual on this world needs to go for therapy because I like to see it in this way, yeah, where you're having a bad day and you really want to talk to somebody. And instead of like going to talk to your friends who will give you unsolicited advice, for example, if you didn't need advice, you go to a professional that can just sit and listen to you and they'll give you everything you need. Whether you need to cry, you have that freedom to cry without being judged. Whether you want to like I don't know, like scream, they're gonna let you scream. Whether you want to just stay silent and be in their company, you can. Whether you're a parent, you're somebody's son, you're a daughter, whoever you are in this world, whether you're old, you're young, I just think everybody should go for therapy because why not? If I'm having a shitty day and I want to go and speak to somebody about it, why not go for therapy? And that's how you realize the different mechanisms that you as yourself and your personality is built upon. You might not realize something that happened in your relationship is causing you to be a certain type to react a certain way. You might not realize things that you had to go through when you were younger might have an effect on your present life and your judgments. It's a lot. It's yourself. Your mind is yourself. It's They say the mind is the biggest weapon. And so I don't get it. Like, what's the big fuss about saying, hey, I'm feeling under the weather. Today's just not it for me. I think I want to go and speak to Dr. Sonia or Dr. Nelly, or Dr. Adiambo, Dr. Daisy. Those are all our doctors, by the way. And it's just such a controlled, a free environment. Everybody should go to therapy, to be honest. And I'm trying to be like Africa's a female giant when it comes to mental health. I really want to see a revolution because we have so much potential. And once people realize that, once they can, be comfortable with their mind, they can do crazy things. Why not? That's what I want. I want people to realize their potential.
Before I
You
let you
don't have
go,
to,
oh,
yeah, go
oh
ahead,
no,
go
go ahead,
ahead.
go
No.
ahead, go ahead. Sorry.
Um, I just want to be a part of transforming somebody's life and leaving a mark.
Before I let you go, I want to talk about what's next for you because, or your biggest challenge, because you talked about how there were a lot of things that you went through your life, whether it be trauma, whether that be talking about when you talking about going to therapy at 15 and how you needed help, and you're now providing the space for so many people. And no matter how good your intentions are, no matter how much you want to help people, there are obviously going to be people that will think, nope, what you're doing is wrong, or there are going to be people that will bring you down. So for you personally, whether that's your mental health advocacy or for yourself, what do you feel like is the biggest challenge for you right now that you're hoping to overcome?
I'm my biggest challenge. Me, Khushbu is Khushbu's biggest challenge. And how do I explain this? I feel like, especially in the African and Asian communities, we have been taught about competition. Like, competition has been ingrained into us so severely. And we're always taught to look at other people who are doing the same things as us or different things as competition. Like, oh, you have to beat this person. You have to come number one in your class. You have to have this percent for you to be good enough, you know? And that's how a lot of African and Asian parents raise their kids. And I would say that I see myself as my biggest competition. I don't look at my flatmates or my best friends and look at what they're doing and see them as their competition, or even in like class and stuff. Like, I think one thing people need to start understanding is your weaknesses could be somebody else's strengths, and somebody else's strengths could be your weaknesses, and vice versa. And so my biggest challenge is myself, because I'm the one who holds myself back from doing certain things. For example, if I wake up, there's days when I go through like a lot of depression, and I'm just having low moods and I can't just get out of bed. And that's the day I'm my biggest challenge, because for me to get up and just brush my teeth sometimes seems like such a big task. And I'm probably supposed to be doing so many other things. And yeah, I would say I'm my biggest challenge, because I hold myself back sometimes, or my mind and my body sometimes feels too tired to be doing the things it needs to be doing. And when it comes to my organization, the biggest challenge we're facing is funding. So whoever would like to donate, even if it's $1 in Kenya is it's not a big amount, but it can always help and it goes a long way.
Yeah, I love the fact that you said that your biggest challenge is yourself. I don't think I've had a guest that has talked about or opened up about that because we can be our biggest allies and our worst enemies. And no matter, people will always say things to hold you back, but ultimately it's what you believe in. And if you believe what they're saying is right, then it is right. But at the flip side, if you think you are better than what they say, then that's all that matters. Who cares about what other people think? What do you think? But
Because
Kushbu, oh, yes.
you alone in this world, then you're gonna die alone. Nobody's gonna die with you. So just, and life is complicated. Life is always going to be full of ups and downs. There's nobody who's living a life that is just all good or all bad. Sometimes the greatest things happen in waiting. So sometimes if you have to just go through that bad day, go through it because who knows, tomorrow, next week, a week later, a month later, something magical will happen. And just that's my urge to people. The best things happen in waiting, in suspension.
That was well said. You've obviously, you've been such an amazing guest, and you are someone who I love talking to. I remember when I first met you. I just remembered how much fun we had talking. You are obviously an amazing person with an amazing vision, and I just want to say thank you for being able to give so many people a chance to speak freely, especially in communities where they are not able to do that. I do hope that more people pay attention to this and are involved. And thank you for joining this podcast. I really can't wait to see all the great things that you do in the future, whether that be on yourself or your organization.
Thank you so, so much for hosting me as well. I really appreciate it and have a wonderful day.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. If you like what you saw, feel free to subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at the OMCG Podcast. Please continue to support this podcast and however you're doing that, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next episode.